Dear Dharma friends and all practitioners, for the patriarch Zens, we always practice. When we practice the right Dharma, we need to detach ourselves from all the egos and the thinking in the mind. Those are the reminder from our Buddha and the patriarchs. Because of our habits, our ignorance, that's why we always running after the knowledge, the understanding, instead of going directly into the practice. And these habits is already there in our mind for several lives. That's why we're running in a circle of birth and death. When we are still in a dream, we have met the Dharma from the Buddha and the patriarchs. We understand the way of practice. However, we still running after the ignorance, the habit, and we won't be able to detach ourselves from those ignorance, the knowledge, just because we didn't practice the right way. We thought that the understanding, the knowledge is the main thing in our practice. That's why we're always running after those and attach ourselves to those. When we said that we're practicing the Patriot Zens, we have to put down everything, just asking questions and raising doubts. The doubt will sweep up everything for us. We knew the practice is like that. However, we still attach ourselves on the knowledge, the understanding, instead of putting them down. It's just like we carrying a heavy rock on our shoulder, and it makes our walking step by step heavier and heavier. That's why the experienced ones, the masters, always remind us to practice, which means we put down those thinking, those knowledge, and just practice. However, the practitioners always attach to the words explanations, and when they use that to analyze the meanings, they try to understand the words without practicing, then they go on the wrong path. When we doing the practice the right way, we need to put down all of those thinking in a mind, good, bad, right, wrong. Any dualistic aspect of mind will be swept up by the doubt. The doubt have nothing for us to hold on to. The doubt have nothing for us to achieve of. And the doubt have nothing for us to fear of. When we asking questions, raising doubts, we put out everything, and even the circle of birth and death will be swept up in the practice, and all the thinking of nothingness, stillness, achievements will be swept up along with the practice. And those are the words of explanations in the Buddha Sutra, the Patriarch's explanations. However, only the practice will help us to digest all of those words. It's the connections, a bridge to connect us to the other side of the riverbank. And if we don't practice, we're just staying on this side of the riverbank and looking at the other side of the riverbank. So in order to practice properly, you need to believe in your own Buddha nature. We need to value our practice of asking questions and raising doubts. The doubt is the not knowing of the mind. And when we're asking the questions and we're not knowing about the answer, that becomes the doubt in our mind. And we don't try to answer the questions, we're keeping the doubt, and that is the proper doubt that will lead us to the pre-thinking aspect of the mind. And when we reach that state of mind, which means we reach the door of prajna, or the wisdom, the door of wisdom, and we will open that door of wisdom, which means we going on the right path. And those are the words from the explanations of the patriarchs and the Buddha. And if you have any questions or have any experience to share, go ahead and speak up. Tuệ Pháp, go ahead. Could you give us some words of encouragement on don't be afraid of elusive thinking, but go back to the realizations of the Buddha nature. The words from the patriarch said that don't be afraid of the elusive thinking, but go back to the reflections of your Buddha nature. That is just the words. Those are the words. So when we listen to the explanations of the patriots, don't use your mind to try to understand that and said that your thinking is the right way and other people are not. Our mind is always in the thinking continuously, day or night, and those thinking are the disease that the Buddha said in the sutra, or the seeing, hearing, feeling, and knowing in our mind are the diseases that we had for several lives. If we attach ourselves to those, then the elusive thinking will be created by your own mind continuously, and we won't be able to stop them. That's why all the suffering, the right and wrong, the good and bad keep on going and keep on creating in your mind, and you feel like it's really difficult to stop them. That's why you feel like it's so difficult to do the practice. And you said that that nothing can have us. Everything are just elusive thinking, and we attach ourselves to those elusive thinking and thought that it's difficult to do the practice. So what should we do when we have those elusive thinking? We have this practice of the Patriot Zens. When we know that is elusive thinking, don't run after them, but you don't put in your intentions to not running after those elusive thinking. However, you go back to asking questions and raising doubt. Pay attention to the doubt, the pre-thinking aspect of the mind, and the doubt will sweep up all those thinking for you automatically without your intentions. The realizations is the practicing put down both knowing and not knowing. The truth or the untruth are both sides of the coins. You don't follow them or attach yourself to them. Just use them as a reminder. They are just elusive thinking in your mind. Just go back to your practice. When you have the schedule in your practice, in the morning, in the noon, in the afternoon, we follow the schedule and train ourselves in practice until we get used to the practice. We don't just wearing the robe of the monk or the nun, or just doing things that seem like we are practicing. However, we are not. Just eating, sleeping, and doing nothing. And we thought that we already practice. We say that we put out everything already, or we take on the practice already, and those taking and putting down are just the two attachment that we put ourselves in, and without the practice we won't able to put them down correctly. So when we said that don't be afraid about lucid thinking and pay attention in the realization of the Buddha nature, when you know that you are the practitioners, the monk or the nuns, you always touch your head, your shaved head, and remind that you are the practitioners, you are the Buddha's sons and daughters. You need to go back to the practice, and only the practice is the way that you follow the Buddha words, the patriarch's teaching, the schedule in the morning, the afternoon, or at night. We have to follow them strictly. However, those are just a reminder for us to practice in all activities or situations or circumstances. We don't just doing that without the asking questions and raising doubt. When we practicing and detach ourselves from all the ego, only the doubt can help us to do that, can help us to do that. So asking questions and raising doubt will help us to detach ourselves from all those elusive thinking in the mind, even though everything going on around you, the doubt will help you to do that. Like an example, you are walking on the street. When you have the traffic jams, the traffic will be slowing down. You go along with that. However, you don't put in the emotions, the intentions, and you put out everything by asking questions and raising doubt. The doubt will help you to overcome everything, and the doubt will put you in the right mode of don't be afraid of elusive thinking and pay attention to the realization of your Buddha nature. Don't be afraid of everything. When you still having the practice, you eating, you drinking, you doing work, everything with the practice. Don't just put in your intentions that you try to do the practice, you try to do anything, just asking questions and raising doubt. That's all you need to do. Don't let the elusive thinking interfere with your practice. So don't be afraid of elusive thinking and pay attention to the realization of your Buddha nature. Only can achieve if you practice correctly. Asking questions and raising doubt. Is that understandable? Yes. Thank you for your words. You mean? Go ahead. Could you please give us the Dharma talk about the knowledge is very to put down compared to the suffering of sadness. So the interference is always coming from our knowledge. The knowledge is the one that understanding or achievement And those because we attach ourselves to an idea or a knowledge. And people sometimes mistaken those knowledge as a right way to achieve, a right way to practice. And that's why all of those saints, the arahats, they still attach themselves to the achievements of the nirvana, and the knowledge of the nirvana is the one that they attach to. That's why other religions, they also have these understanding, the knowledge that they follow, the guidelines that they follow, and sometimes they don't practice, they just follow. That's why they attach themselves to those knowledge. When we practicing, we always detach ourselves from all of those knowledge that we achieve during the practice. Even the nothingness knowledge during the we practice is also be put down during our practice. Our attachment is always there to interfere with our practice. It's been there for several lives, birth and death, going into the birth and death. It's just because of those attachments that we have on the knowledge. That's why the Buddha has said that our my right Buddha and my right Dharma cannot be destroyed by any people outside. Only my followers will be the one that destroyed my right Dharma, because they only based on the attachment of the knowledge, and they not practicing. It's just like the lion when he died, no animals can want to come because they are afraid of the lions. Only the worms, the bacteria inside of the lions can uh, eat the lions. So, in summary, the attachment is within you. You always attach yourself to your own opinions, your own knowledge. That's why the Buddha said that you mistaken the rock as a pearl. You mistaken the bark of the trees is a core. That's why we attach ourselves to something that fake, and we don't realize our own true Buddha nature. That's why when we have those attachments in our mind, that becomes the interference with our practice. The attachment to knowledge is harder to destroy compared to the um, suffering from sadness or emotions. When That's why when we have the knowledge of destroying something, and we attach ourselves to that knowledge, and we won't be, we don't put it down using our practice, we won't be able to reach our Buddha nature. All the layers, all those levels in practicing of the Theravada, Mahayana, from lower level to higher level, it's just because of the different levels of attachments, they have different way of practice. Only the practice will help us to detach ourselves from all of the thinkings, all the attachments to the thinking in our mind. And that is the way that we can get out of the house of circle of birth and death, the way to liberate ourselves from all of these thinkings. And when we reach our Buddha nature, we will have the ability to realize what is a real um, the real meanings of the Buddha teaching. When we attach ourselves to the Buddha words of explanations, we will go against the meanings of the Buddha and the patriots. And that is also the circle of birth and death. Is that understandable? My Dharma friends also have a questions uh, uh, about the habits. Our habits is really hard to put down when we practicing. The habits of attachment is weakened, and even though we knew that the habits of attachment is the problem, however, we've been practicing for a while, we can still not putting it down. Could you give the words of explanation for us on this? The important thing is you need to believe in your Buddha nature and practicing, asking questions and raising doubt. The habit is also one of your elusive thinking in your mind. Don't be afraid of your elusive thinking, or don't be afraid of your habits. Just practice. That practice is a realization of your Buddha nature. Sometimes when people they get enlightenment already, they still have the habits that they need to cultivate. So that's why there are different levels of realization too. The realizations or the enlightenment of a normal person or a saint can be different based on the habits that they still have. It's just like a person who get cancer when they have the chemotherapy and they recover from the cancer. That is a person who start to recovering from the disease. That different from a person who still doing the chemotherapy. Another example is a person who was sick and they on the way to recovering. Sometimes they still need to eat properly, the nutritious foods in order to regain or recovering from their conditions. That's why for people who practicing, they realize something. However, they still need to cultivate their mind, cultivate their habit, put out their habits in order to go on the next level. However, for practitioners, sometimes then when they are doing the practicing, they don't detach themselves from the ego, the elusive thinking, the habit. That's why they won't be able to walk toward their goal effectively. Don't be afraid of your elusive thinking. Don't be afraid of the habit. Just use them as a reminder to practice more and more. That's why we focus on the practicing. That's why we have these schedules of practicing. We have the time for asking question and asking question and answers that aids us or remind us to go back to the practice. We need to value and keep practicing. That's why we said don't be afraid of the habit. Just use them as a reminder to go back to your practice. Is that understandable? Yes. Thank you for your words. We run.